Should you? So when I first heard about the AirPods Pro, I kind of rolled my eyes. Here we go again with another one of those Pro items. Much like the AirPods 2 when they first came out, I was like, maybe it's probably not worth spending my money to upgrade to the AirPods Pro, but I was definitely curious to see how they compare to my honestly perfectly fine first gen AirPods. So originally I thought they were going to be significantly bigger, but you know what, honestly they're not that much bigger. I mean, if you put it in your pockets, they feel just about the same. Aside from the orientation that's a little bit different, it looks and feels just like how an AirPod casing would feel. If I'm being kind of nitpicky, this little part right here, where it's supposed to be shiny, in the AirPods Pro, it's a matte or satin finish. That's a little detail I like that I highly doubt would sway anyone's buying decision, but there we are. The AirPods Pro come with a pre-installed rubber tip. They also come with different sizes, but I found that the default ones fit perfectly fine in my ears. They also look much better, a lot less awkward than the AirPods because of that long stem. That said, how do they actually feel? For a little context, I actually never liked earbuds, just because I have very tiny ears and earbuds just hurt my ears after prolonged use. So when the EarPods, the wired ones, came out for the first time, I was actually really surprised at how comfortable they feel in my ears. When they announced the AirPods, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. The AirPods Pro, however, feels even more comfortable, and I can't really determine why. I'm guessing it's because of the rubber that they use. It's snug enough that it fits in your ear and they don't fall off. They don't feel like they're falling off. Actually, they feel more secure than the AirPods do, and yet they have a good seal that doesn't feel like your ears are going to ache after a few hours of using them. So into the meat of this whole comparison, how do they sound compared to the regular, my first generation AirPods? So I tested both AirPods and AirPods Pro with a variety of music. While I wouldn't consider myself an audiophile, there is a noticeable difference between the two. After listening to the Pros, I definitely realized that the AirPods have a more processed sound to them. I guess the way I would describe it is that they're tuned to sound bassier, if that's a word. And the Pros, on the other hand, have a more natural, not quite, but almost neutral sound, which makes, to me at least, clearer vocals, better mids, a wider soundstage, and definitely better sound separation. As I kept switching between the two, I realized that the AirPods actually had a muffled sound compared to the AirPods Pro. It's not bad, it's just you only notice it once you start listening to the AirPods Pro. It's just cleaner that way. I can't not talk about the noise cancellation feature. So when I first tried them on, they were on by default, and while I wasn't blown away, I was pretty impressed. They performed as I would expect, and I even did the snapping test. So yes, they work. But I think the best example that I could give, and this actually really happened. So when I was testing the AirPods Pro for the first time, I was actually vacuuming. So I was vacuuming the floor downstairs, and I stopped the vacuum, picked up some toys that my kids left on the floor, and I resumed vacuuming, only to realize that a few minutes later, the vacuum actually wasn't on. Mind you, the volume of my music actually wasn't even very high. That tells me that the noise cancellation actually works well enough that I forgot that the vacuum was actually off. So yeah, in that context, yeah, noise cancellation does work. One of the things that actually impresses me about the AirPods Pro is the sound transparency. And transparency is a good word to describe it. Actually, I think it's a perfect word to describe it. The AirPods Pro basically has three modes: noise cancellation on, noise cancellation off, or transparency mode on. When you're on transparency mode, the microphones in the Pros will transmit just enough sound into your ear so that you can hear what's around you. And I'm not suggesting you try this because I guess you're not supposed to, but I was driving and I tried to see if I can pick up any usual sounds while I was driving with the transparency mode on. So I was really impressed because it does feel like a very open, it almost feels like an open back headphones if you've ever tried those. So you basically can still hear the stuff that's outside. It's not magnified in any way. It just sounds like it would in a normal volume, but you can hear it. I could hear every rattle, every shake in the car. I could hear other cars passing by. I've actually even had full conversations with the transparency on, although I probably wouldn't do that again because it just seems rude. Although I would say that the sound transparency actually works. If you're listening to music at full volume, even though you have transparency on, it's kind of pointless. Lastly, I do want to talk about the controls. The one thing I did not like about the AirPods, the regular AirPods, is the touch controls. The tapping is just so finicky to me. Sometimes I would have to rest my finger and then do a double tap for it to actually work. So it's one of those things that I didn't really like. I still prefer using the controls on my phone, but now they changed it for the Pros. The Pros require you to squeeze the stem and you will hear a very soft but still audible clicking sound. And I actually really like that. I do wish I am able to control the volume using just the pressing controls. But I guess for now, Siri still works, and it works actually pretty well. So should you buy the AirPods Pro if you have the regular AirPods or maybe AirPods 2? The way I see it, it comes down to how you use the AirPods. Are you the person who likes to have some sort of background music while you're commuting to work or while you're actually working, or maybe you're working out? Something that just plays in the background and so that you can focus in whatever it is that you're doing. Or are you someone who actually enjoys the listening experience, or maybe you want to shut out the world for a little bit while you listen to your music? If you're more of the former, I'd say the AirPods are actually perfectly fine for you. They fit really well, they're much more affordable, and they sound actually really good. Actually, I would say that if you like heavy bass, type of music, I would probably stick with the AirPods because they definitely are processed or tuned for that type of music. But if you listen to a lot of acoustic stuff, I think you'll appreciate the AirPods Pro. It has better sound separation, a wider sound stage, and it's just more clear. Sorry, I'm not really a big audiophile reviewer. Everything else feels very much like the regular AirPods, but probably the biggest thing you should consider is how they feel or how they fit in your ear. And since sound is so subjective, fit is almost just as. So for me, I really like the way they fit in my ear. I like the sound, and the noise cancellation and transparency features are kind of bonuses for me. Wireless charging is a neat feature. It's something I didn't really need, but it's cool to have. Oh, and I do like the controls much, much better. And that's why I'm keeping these. I'm sorry, what now?